Hello everyone and welcome to today's session. What we are looking at today is, should Christians obey all government laws? Should Christians obey all government laws? The Bible commands that Christians should respect and generally obey government authorities, but not where those authorities command what the Bible forbids or forbids what the Bible commands. God remains the highest authority. Let's look at the scripture that supports this in Romans chapter 13, verse 1 to 2. Let everyone be subject to the government authority. So God establishes authorities, governments, to restrain chaos. If we look at, for those of you that watch the Wild West, those movies, you see a lot of no man's land, because the United States government, as those films normally portray, as at then, we aren't having enough presence in certain of those lands, and as a result, people just do whatever they want to do and get away with it. And for those of you that watched Pirates of the Caribbean, you remember the place Tortuga, where that island place where there was no laws, anything goes. I mean, you are free to kill, you are free to do anything to anybody, and nothing happens. And so that is the need why government, why the law, God authorizes or delegates authority to these government authorities we have, so that there will not be chaos, there will be order, there will be structure. But government is not supreme. Many people stop at Romans chapter 3, which is a problem. The Bible contains, if you look at the Bible, you see numerous examples of where God's people disobeyed certain government laws or government authorities, government instructions. And we see that God was clearly pleased with them and even helped them through the process, because clearly those laws in question were not in line with God's own laws. Let's look at some of this example. If you look at the book of Acts chapter 5 verse 27 to 29, it says, we must obey God rather than men. This was when Peter and some of the apostles were arrested and being questioned. First, they had been arrested in the past and warned not to preach the name of Christ anymore. And what did they do? They disobeyed and continued preaching. And that was when they were questioned. I said, didn't we strictly warn you not to do this and that and that? And they responded, we must obey God rather than men. Another example, you can go read it up in Daniel chapter 6, verse 7 to 10. This was after the law was passed that no one should pray. Pray to any other god. And Daniel disobeyed. He didn't disobey, with aggression and so on. He disobeyed respectfully. He just continued to be diligent in his prayers. And of course, he was caught in the process and tried. And we all know how that ended. The people that conspired to even get that law set up, they were consumed by the lion that they intended for Daniel. Again, you look at the book of Exodus chapter 1, verse 15 to 17. You can go read it up. This was when Pharaoh had instructed the midwives that when the women of Israel bore a male child, that they should kill the male child. If it's a female child, they should leave that female child to live. And those midwives also disobeyed, because this is clearly against God's own law. Again in Exodus, lastly, let's also consider Daniel chapter 3, verse 16. This was the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You know how that ended. And that's a famous response they gave to the king. O king, we are not careful to answer you in this matter. That response used to amuse me for ages. The Bible teaches submission to authorities, but not worship. of authorities. Government is important, but God is not government, and God is actually more important than government. Obey government when laws are lawful and not against the Bible's position. In conclusion, I would say the ultimate allegiance for Christian is God and not government. Your allegiance as a Christian is not to your government. Your government is number 2. God is number 1. And so long as your government is not conflicting with God, then you are fine and good to go. But at the point where it conflicts, then you have a decision to make. A decision like the type of decision Daniel made. Disobey and face the consequences. But you see, one thing we have always seen is that is a different topic. Let me not go in deep. But God always supports his people at the end. Thank you, and see you next time.